Over the last 7 years, I have watched InnoHub grow from strength to strength while setting up and investing in other brands like Wangara Green Ventures, which is a fund that also invests in what we call green startups, set up the Ghana Tech Lab, invested in a company called Built Accounting, and so many others. Together, these three brands can boast of close to 100 young people employed by them. This doesn't include several others who have been supported to either maintain their staff or to recruit new people, or those who have received investments from our fund, which in the last 2 years has invested about $1.5 million in Ghanaian SMEs and still counting. Mr. Chairman, my lecture today will interrogate current models of job creation in Ghana vis-a-vis the trade industry sector, and I'm pleased the Honorable Minister is here. I believe I will go back to him for more coaching when I'm done on anything I might have missed out on this. I would also present opportunities for improvement and propose new windows for consideration. The core of the presentation will be anchored on the following themes: rightly supporting the growth and scaled up capital investment for value creation of indigenous SMEs in the mandated manner, reducing the dependence on imports, strategically creating winners in the economy, promoting opportunities for growth for small businesses in the cottage industry sector, leveraging on opportunities presented by AFTA to expand Ghana's export base, riding on the fourth industrial revolution, the gig economy, the digital and virtual world to create new jobs for young people, building a new industry from the coordinated export of human capital, particularly in the areas of TVET skills, English teaching, nursing, etc. Building a job-ready workforce from the partnership between industry and academia. And finally, I would settle on the crux of my presentation, which is about defining what I call the Ghana-Africa strategy. I will touch on these themes in no particular order, and some of them would actually be discussed jointly and not always individually. One thing, Mr. Chairman, I would not seek to do is to reproduce a cacophony of challenges we face in job creation as a country and avoid sounding like just a noisy cymbal. I belong to those who, like Joseph, in the time of famine, proposed a solution and not came talking about problems, as we see in the Holy Scriptures. One caveat I would like to also give, as the theme also mentioned in the 21st century, is that whereas so many economists in discussing this trend are always talking about just the fourth industrial revolution, digital skills, emerging economists will need to contextualize these conversations and see what is really relevant for them in creating jobs for their people. So the first theme, which is about rightly supporting the growth and capital investment for value creation in indigenous SMEs in a coordinated manner. Mr. Chairman, trade is generally seen as a source of growth, development, and jobs. In recent decades, global trade has expanded significantly, thanks in large part to advances in transportation and digital technologies, alongside progressive market opening through multilateral, regional, and bilateral trade agreements. This process has helped create jobs in developed and developing economies alike, and has helped bring millions out of poverty. However, trade may not generate jobs on an even level across actors in the trade value chain. Whereas exporting parties in trade could have it as a major driver of growth and job creation, it is important to recognize that the same magnitude of jobs may not be seen in importing economies by the trade value chain. In 2014, exports accounted for almost 50% of jobs in Ireland and 30% of jobs in Germany. In this context, it's important to know that jobs don't just happen. And we cannot sloganeer and jargonize our ways to job creation. Also, it's important to admit respectfully that not all job creation programs lead to sustained jobs that can address the ever-growing needs of Ghanaian youth. Sustained jobs are a function of strategic and deliberate pursuit of industrial activities that demonstrate the potential to scale, to create and generate more jobs. I'll give an example called the Israeli Yozma model, just to build my point. In the case of Israel, right from the 1948, we noticed after so many decades of little movement in the economy, there were new national priorities in Israel, which began from the massive immigration of the former Soviet Union in the early 1990s. The government began searching for means to employ thousands of engineers that came into the country without jobs. Simultaneously, the military industries had laid off hundreds of engineers, so unemployment was quite high. To make matters worse, many startups were created only to fail after being created. And this is something that we could also relate with because we see many startups in Ghana failing not many years after they start. Israel's economy for several decades was dominated by the public sector. That means jobs were being created by the public sector, with little movement on the trade front. And to address the supply side market failures, the government set up a special program called YOSMA, which basically means initiative in Hebrew. And this was an equity co-investment program to channel equity finance into capital constrained but high potential young enterprises. And this is how they did it. The program, which began in 1993, was an outcome of very long, intensive preparation, research, visits by the Office of the Chief Scientist to Silicon Valley in the US, interviews with the US entrepreneurs, US venture capitalists, investment banks, and their financial institutions. And this was to help them build an evidence-based program. The Innovation Authority in Israel allocated about $100 million for this project. And what they sought to do was to set up 10 venture capital funds. And each of these funds were to be a private government partnership. The private sector, to be beneficial of the program, according to the YOSMA, should be composed of partnerships of leading Israeli financial institutions with leading foreign venture investors. So essentially, they sought to bring in experience from the US market especially, and other matured foreign venture economies. And they also had to show the private sector had a capacity to possibly buy out the government equity within 5 years at a predetermined rate. And this made it very exciting for potential venture capitalists, investment banks to come onto the program. And what the program did was once you are approved and once you meet these conditions, the government would invest up to 40% of the funds you are raising. And this means that for a $100 million fund by the government, they were able to leverage on that to bring in $150 million of private sector funds, both domestic and foreign. The various conditions for these funds, I must say, are quite important to take note of because as we sought to talk about or reduce what we call elite capture in emerging economies, some of these methodologies and systems in place help to reduce the trends for elite capture, especially for those who benefit from some of these programs, not by the merit of what they can do, but because they basically served a political party. The program added great component to the ecosystem, and this was risk capital for startups. How would we describe the result of the YOSMA program? It was phenomenal success. Within 5 years of its implementation, Mr. Chairman, the various YOSMA funds had raised investment of $250 million and invested in 250 startups in 5 years. In 2016, there were about 4,362 startup companies active in Israel by kind courtesy of this program, with about 27,500 jobs created. And in a country of about 8 million people, it's important to say that there's quite a significant number of jobs created. Clearly, the program created the companies that created the jobs. Our closest example to this in Ghana is the Ghana Venture Capital Trust Fund, but I dare say that we have quite some room to go in execution. The second theme is about reducing heavy dependence on imports as a means to create more jobs. A few weeks ago, my 10-year-old son asked me a very simple but deep question. He says, "Daddy, why is it that literally everything I see around me has made in China written on it?" And I was quite shocked. Then he continued. He says, "Does it mean that in Ghana we don't produce anything?" And this is my 10-year-old in grade 6 or primary six asking me this question. Because he says everything he sees around him in the house, wherever he goes, he says, made in China. And Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would pose this same question to distinguished ladies and gentlemen in this room. How many of the things we see around on a daily basis and use on a daily basis and resort to on a daily basis can we lay claim to as Guinean products? And not from China or Turkey or Indonesia. In the words of the World Bank Country Director for Ghana, Pierre Laporte, says the country Ghana faces an acute challenge of generating more and better jobs and has a missing middle of employment in mid-productive active sectors. He further argued that it is time for Ghana to fill that missing middle by cultivating export-oriented activities in both the manufacturing and service sectors and harnessing the transformative potential of trade. And it faces an opportunity to do so now with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Upon a careful analysis of the things we import, including basics like bamboo toothpick, toilet paper, matchsticks for every kitchen in Ghana, we need to ask some hard questions of ourselves and make the right decisions from them. Agreeably, a policy direction like the One District, One Factory could lead the process in shaping what we produce in Ghana, what we decide not to import because we can do it locally. But my worry sometimes is when we allow the political lens to cloud some of these beautiful programs. And if you are in, it's not good. If you are in, it's good. If you are out, it's not good. And I dare really propose that as a country, we need to find a way not to throw away the baby with the bathwater, but identify what is good in our interest and pursue that beyond political cycles. Mr. Chairman, in the last 6 months, my company supported a group that sought to set up a factory in Akosombo, and we supported them to raise funds. And in fact, our fund put in about 50,000 euros in this factory. And there was a Ghanaian-Dutch partnership, so they also brought some funding from Netherlands. And this factory is basically to process bamboo into toilet paper. It's a shame that we import millions of dollars worth of toilet paper every year. And what they're doing, beyond reducing the import, also reducing the need to cut down trees for toilet paper. I want to propose, before full operations, the factory already engaged 30 locals in the community in Akomufi near Akosombo. They also onboarded 700 bamboo farmers. And the whole idea for this factory is that they want to lock in their raw material, so designing a nursery where the nursery supplies seeds to farmers for free, gives them support in producing this. And this is a high-growing variety of bamboo. So within 2 years, it's ready for sale. And they sell directly to the factory, immediate income for these farmers. These are some of the projects. And again, I want to also thankfully say to the minister that the factory is benefiting currently under the 1D1F. We started without that, but we engaged, and your doors were open onto us. And we have been given assurances as we import more equipment. There are many good waivers that will be coming under the program. So thank you, Honorable. Mr. Chairman, talking about strategically creating winners, I do not use the concept of creating winners in the typical context of picking and creating specific winners, as used in industrial policy-related conversations, but rather I speak of propelling the natural emergence of high performers through a well-curated system of support designed for such purposes. There was a case study by IETA and Thompson in 2021, which identified that agro-processing and tourism are two of the sectors that could be relied on to potentially address the country's jobless growth issue and enhance the competitiveness and productivity of small and medium-sized firms. They further argue that both agro-processing and tourism sectors have several features that make them unique to the condition and situation in Ghana. They spoke about regulatory environment, the potential to offer critical employment, the huge export capacity of these sectors, and the fact that they are labor-intensive sectors and therefore could create more jobs, and the fact that they also address the constraints in the value chains. Such places could be opportunities where as a country we decide to create winners. Also, in projecting into the future, IET and Co suggest that agro-processing and tourism, particularly in hotels and restaurants, will have a great potential to create annual jobs by the year 2035 if we place emphasis on them. It has become imperative, they say, for African countries like Ghana to redirect attention towards identifying and supporting sectors with more significant employment potential in the quest to provide decent employment for a rapidly growing population, especially the youth. We've been talking about the demographic dividends for years, and we say Africa is sitting on a ticking time bomb, and that is because in many African economies, the youth represent between 60 to 70% of the population. And if we don't create winners that would positively engage such a population, and as you said, Mr. Chairman, it's a security issue. Only time will tell what these youth would want to do. When I drive through Accra at night, you have late night meetings and you're getting home, and I get through places like the Golf House area towards Legon. Traffic light turns red, and I see these young men approach me and ask for 1 Ghana cedi. The thinking that immediately I process is, today they are asking me, tomorrow they may not ask me. They will take it by force and by fire, as we say. Yesterday, one of my staff actually was around the Fiesta Royale, just around 8 p.m. in a boat, and one of these guys just opened and took his phone from him with no apologies, just last night. And sometimes I say you may live in highly gated community, high-walled houses, but you step out and you don't carry the high walls with you. So it's important that we really pay attention to this as a national security issue. A background paper by ACET, which is the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, also highlights potential pathways for high employment impact. So they mention agriculture-driven transformation, export-oriented manufacturing, a modernized service sector, tourism, and the creative industries. These are places where we could create winners as a country and build brands who would carry others of them as they go up. Ghana's industrial policy is designed to promote increased competitiveness and enhanced industrial production with increased employment and prosperity for all Ghanaians. The success of the policy is to be measured by the extent to which it empowers the private sector predominantly, but not limited to SMEs, to expand and create opportunities for employment and reduce poverty and spatial inequalities in Ghana. To create winners, we must consider various approaches, with one being a sector-themed approach, where we can place the razor on specific sectors and say, what can we do in this sector to create more jobs? For example, if we take the cocoa value chain in the country, we could decide we're going to create a value innovation around the value chain and retain a greater part of the earnings in the cocoa value chain. Whereas Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana are key global producers of cocoa for now. And I add for now because China is aggressively pursuing a policy of replacing cocoa from Africa, exporting this to Switzerland and what have you. But in the meantime, we are the leading players. The value chain starts from the cocoa bean production to sourcing and marketing to processing and distribution. And much of the cash value is retained around the area of processing and production and marketing. And we seem to be cut off from these places in the value chain. A path to create winners in this sector could be to say, let us support players who seek to create high value at the end of the value chain in this sector, like areas like cococeuticals as we have now. Again, it's important to add that in the cocoa value chain, whereas factories are resorting to synthetic raw material, we could go to the market and advertise that with the synthetic one, you get a taste. With ours, you get both the taste and the nutrients, and they work. Leveraging on the fourth industrial revolution, what is called the gig economy, and the digital economy to create new jobs for young people. Even as we're trying to catch up fully with the third industrial revolution as a country, which has been characterized by automation and digitization, and these are words we literally hear every day in Ghana right now. Everything is digitization. We have the opportunity as a country to take a leap into the new reality of the fourth industrial revolution. And even as we start talking about that, let's keep in mind that the fifth industrial revolution is already holding the heels of the fourth industrial revolution, as we saw in the case of Jacob and Esau. The fourth industrial revolution represents radical advance in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, 3D printing and manufacturing, genetic engineering, etc. It also reflects a democratization of learning, as young people have the opportunity to learn and experience so much knowledge beyond the four corners of classrooms. And so for young people here, the students in here, as we pursue our career paths, we need to start looking at the trends towards the fourth industrial revolution and see how much could we learn on our own. If you have access to data, don't limit it to WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and all the ones you know, TikTok. But can we take online courses in some of these disciplines that would prepare us for the jobs of the future? It's moving beyond metal and wood to what you have in your mind that you could engage through computers and produce something. The fourth industrial revolution, again, also gives an advantage around what is called the gig economy. In modern terms, you see most people taking very short-term jobs, virtual jobs. They just want to be freelancers. And so you could go online, go to a platform called Upwork, post your profile there. Somebody in US who needs someone to build a design for them will just engage you. You do it for them, they pay you, and you move on. It is important as a country to make the right investment in our young people to be able to plug into the opportunities presented by such wave we see around. And I call on industry and academia to create the right kind of relationships to be able to ensure that the students we build are empowered to take on the fourth industrial revolution and the subsequent fifth one and whatever may come. Also, it is time to give full blood to the much trumpeted Ghana Bpo strategy. And for so many years, we've been having a Bpo strategy on paper, talking about and basically business process outsourcing, how Ghana is on GMT, we speak good English, and so many advantages that makes it right for a company in the UK, in the US, other places, to set up their processes in Ghana, have Ghanaian staff run process automation, and possibly get paid on that. The Bpo strategy has huge prospects to create massive jobs. And now in the new era where you don't even have to have everybody in one space because you have soft IP phones, people can actually be working for a BPO, sit in their house, just get an IP phone, have a mini call center at home, and address questions from a hospital or an insurance company in the US or UK, for that matter. This can be a driver of massive jobs. I also talk about building a new industry from the coordinated export of human capital, particularly in the areas of demand such as TVET skills, nursing, English teachers, etc. A number of European countries currently are in high demand of such technical and vocational skills like plumbing, welding, carpentry, etc. You also every day see calls for nurses, particularly the recent ones by the UK government calling for nurses, other health experts, and in a few weeks they're going to announce a program where highly talented young people from particular universities can easily move to UK without a job. You go there, you can be there for 3 years after you can get a permanent stay, and it's going to be launched by the end of May. While some of these things are basically designed to tap into the human capital we have here, an opportunity is there for us to also look at those they're not looking for on that high level, but they need. I mentioned plumbing, welding, etc. How could we build a program through the TVET sector that would coordinate such skills, give them top-class training, and basically export them to the world? as we have seen others export their doctors into our countries. Mr. Chairman, recently you saw a country like Rwanda talking about they needing English teachers, and Ghana was one of the countries they were looking up to. Can we have a coordinated program that would build the capacity of our people who have been trained in the universities to teach English, and basically package them as a country to say the government of Ghana is giving government of Rwanda 100 English teachers, and government of Ghana wants to have a say in the conditions of employment of these people, and possibly have some kind of a model which can retain revenue to the government. This could create the kind of jobs we're looking for in the 21st century. As I touch on this, I would be narrowing down on the cracks of my presentation, even as I keep watching my time to be sure I stick within allocated time. This is what I call defining the Ghana-Africa strategy. What do I mean by that? This may not be found in literature, but you have clearly, there is a China-Africa strategy, there is the US-Africa strategy, there is the France-Africa strategy, there is the EU-Africa strategy. I believe there is now the UAE-Africa strategy. I was part of a delegation that was invited by President Macron, His Excellency, in October last year, called the French-Africa Summit, and this is certainly anchored within the French-Africa strategy. Why do they have all of these strategies? Is it because they just like Africa? It's a beautiful place, beautiful people, warm people, as they say. Or there are bigger objectives for these countries to have all of these strategies? I argue that there is a very solid reason beyond just a nice place to come to, nice weather, nice people. There is an economic objective. Why they will spend so much money pursuing these objectives? We see how all of these places, Europe is launching huge investment into Africa. China is investing in Africa's ports, railway sector, diamond, bauxite, and what have you. What I propose is the Ghana-Africa strategy, where we can, for one, see ourselves as outside of Africa. And see, what is China seeing in Africa that we are not seeing? What is the US seeing that we are not seeing? What is France seeing that we don't see? What is UAE seeing? Why are they holding all of these fairs and inviting African governments to their place? So you have 30 African presidents fly to meet one president in this place. Sponsored facilities. Why are they doing that? If we begin to interrogate that question as an outsider of Africa, Ghana, we would be able to design a framework where we see and treat Africa as a business case, outlining areas where Ghana can strongly position itself as a leader on the continent. So we come from outside to engage the continent. The good thing is that we have the advantage that others may not have. Of course, there are challenges. I remember recently when I had to travel to Gambia, which you could basically call one of the nearby countries to Ghana. I had to fly all the way to Morocco, fly down to Senegal, and then connect to Gambia. On my way back, I had to fly through Gambia to Senegal, Senegal to Nigeria, Nigeria to Ghana. These are some of the challenges that we will talk about. But is there potential beyond these challenges? I would say yes. Thankfully, Ghana is playing host to the African Continental Free Trade Secretariat. It's a nice thing to do, but unless we design the Ghana-Africa strategy, this would only remain a nice thing on paper, where we could always talk about the fact that we are happy to host Africa in Ghana. But the real benefits that we could obtain as a country through AFTA may not really be derived if we don't have a strategy. In designing the strategy, I'm looking at how we can take advantage of the huge market potential that Africa offers. Currently, we have situations where international venture funds, venture capitalists, would prefer to go and invest in Nigeria and not Ghana for one reason: market size. If Ghana begins to place radar on Africa, Ghanaian startups and SMEs could actually go back to these venture capital and tell them that I am not just for the Ghanaian market, which you see as small, but I'm conquering Africa. I'm penetrating the Nigerian market. I'm going to Kenya. I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to South Africa. And I'm mentioning these are the big economies on the continent. How can we do that? What kind of steps can we follow in creating this strategy? Mr. Chairman, I propose, first of all, we need to look at what is called the Africa Import Map Project. We need to design a map of Africa and basically project into each country and ask, what is country A importing? What is country B importing? What is country C importing? This is what I call the import map of Africa, or Africa's import map, or the AIM project. And as we identify what they are importing, we ask ourselves, who is filling these imports? Where are they coming from? Which countries are they buying them from? And what is the reason for these countries buying from these places? The third question to ask then is, where can we have strategic advantages? Can we compete favorably in any of these imports to the various African countries in the Africa Import Map project? And then we ask ourselves, which of these do we have the phenomenal potential to create sustained jobs and incomes? It is not just exporting anything from Ghana, but we need to anchor that strategy on jobs and incomes for the people. That is one of the most critical security issues we need to address. And once we understand where we can create a potential for sustained jobs and incomes, we ask ourselves, how do we play and win? How do we make it happen? What kind of steps? And this is something that we would need to sit down as a country to design a roadmap and say, this is what we want to do. This is how we're going to engage Africa. We are not just going to be nice neighbors and sit down and drink tea and come back, whilst much of the value on the continent is being occupied by China, by Indonesia, by Turkey, and the rest of the world. We are out to do business as a country, and how do we make it happen? Mr. Chairman, this strategy will influence critical investment in sectors that project our areas of strength and the solutions we want to be known for across the continent. And I'm going to cite a few examples. First of all, I mentioned the tea roll factory we're setting up to produce tea roll from bamboo. Within a few months of getting into this project and doing a few social media posts, there are so many companies from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Botswana, from Zambia, who are calling us, can I import this toilet paper to my country? It's that simple. Because all of them are currently importing this in from China. There are all kinds of challenges that may be happening, especially with the COVID situation. We're not entirely out of the woods when it comes to the business side of COVID. Of course, we know China is still in a locked border situation now. So it's very difficult importing from China. So they are all calling on our doors. Can you export to our countries? That company with the current capacity may not be able to meet all of these orders, particularly order from Europe, which we had some people fly to Ghana just last weekend and conversing, how could we take this up? How could we be an off-taker for this product to Europe? This is a very simple project, but we could decide to create a winner around this where we could be known for the place where export of toilet paper to the rest of Africa starts from. And that's the vision for the company. Anytime I travel to an African country, one thing I seek to do, and I always do, is I take made in Ghana chocolate with me. Especially when I'm going for meetings and I'm going to meet people and I'm going to meet my host. I take this chocolate and I give it out as gifts. Sometimes I take boxes of them. And people ask, are you going to sell? I said, no. I'm giving them a taste of Ghana. There is always a shock when they get the chocolate and taste it. I remember I was in Botswana a few months ago and I gave it to a friend of mine. And I told him, Boga, can you give this to your kids when you go home? He said, that's fine. He opened the box unwrapped the first one, tasted it, and said, "Did you say this is for my kids? I doubt it will go home." And then he asked me, "Are you sure this is from Ghana?" And that is not the first country I've had that kind of question. I had same in Zambia, I had same in South Africa, I had same in Morocco, I had same in Gambia, I had same in Liberia. And they are all asking, how can we get this chocolate and sell in our countries? Sometimes we never value what we have until we go out there. They are surprised as well at the high quality of the product. It will surprise you to know that if you go to South Korea, there is actually a chocolate called Ghana chocolate. They are using our brand, and they get shocked when they see that the chocolate actually comes from here. The Ghana Africa strategy, which I propose, will propel the trade of this product across the continent as a much better option to our synthetic products which are coming from other markets as chocolate. A third example I will cite is salt. Incidentally, as a church, we are the salt of the earth. And Ghana has the salt of the earth in abundance. It defies material logic to see that Ghana imports salt from China. Although studies have shown that we could produce 2 to 3 million tons of salt annually in this very country, we currently produce just about 250,000 tons of salt annually, a meager 10% of the production capacity and what God has freely given to us. I recently took a trip to the coast of Pram, Ningo Pram, and there was a land that was available, and the owner was selling, and he said that he bought this to produce salt. And I asked, why didn't you do it? He wasn't sure he could. And it's so much salt across the country. A Ghana Africa strategy will unleash the dormant potential in the salt industry and related value chains like caustic soda. A lot of manufacturing firms import tons of caustic soda into Ghana and into Africa every year. Nobody currently produces caustic soda in Ghana. The only ingredient you need to produce caustic soda is salt and power. If you have salt and you have power, which could be solar, electricity, anything, you could readily produce that. This strategy could help us leverage on the import of other African countries and say we are going to create winners across this value chain and make it happen. There is so much room for creating trade value chains towards job creation if we explore my proposed Ghana Africa strategy. In conclusion, Mr. Chairman, I'm really looking at my watch. Ghana would need to consider an integrated jobs strategy that addresses barriers in the business climate, the lack of competitiveness of job creation sectors, and a comprehensive labor market regulations. Ghana needs to diversify its economy through gains in productive sectors like agribusiness, transport, construction, energy, and information technology, particularly in this new world of the gig economy and the virtual world realities. Employment needs to expand in both rural and urban areas. And in rural areas, we have the potential to create what we call the cottage industry. The young woman in the village who is processing cassava on a small scale, who is in the bamboo sector, who is in the various soap-making activities, tie and dye activities, bead activities, kente weaving, shea butter, essential oils. How do we create the right industry around these people such that you don't get to a situation where middlemen from Europe and from North America would go into these places, take the products at a very low value, and go sell at a very premium value, leaving our people in a cycle of poverty? So cottage industry would be a very good opportunity to create jobs in the rural areas, and we need to really look at our approach and emphasis on them. More jobs. And I believe Honorable Alan Martin has always been an apostle and disciple of jobs. Jobs for the people, money for the people. Jobs for the people, cash for the people. That was a good reminder for you, sir. More jobs need to be created in higher productivity sectors in the industry and trade sectors. And productivity need to be increased in lower productivity sectors, in services and agriculture, in government sectors, where, sadly speaking, that is one of the areas where you record lowest productivity. People earn because they come to work and sit in there, not because they produce something to earn. People get fat bonuses because they are just appointed, not because they are creating the cow that would give them the milk. How do we enhance productivity in these places? And that would ultimately reduce the burden on the nation's spares and create more jobs, opening up these sectors for young people. Again, how do we create the relevant skills development programs and services that target gaps in information about jobs creation and job opportunities? Ameba. Papa see me bisa hwan. Papa, a friend rhetorical question. In the spirit of responsiveness to Papa, I will try to give some of the answers to these questions quickly and wrap up. I'll come back. Thank you. Export growth has been a central feature of successful development. So in answer to that, how do we create winners that reduce our import levy, create more export products, win on the Ghana-Africa strategy? The fastest growing countries have managed to harness the potential within the global economy to promote their growth over the long term. And no country has grown successfully without a large expansion of its trade, because trade brings in the money. Again, are we making the money on the lower end or on the higher end? We, by opening up and producing more, could make the money on the higher end. It is time as a country to pursue the path of high growth of businesses, ready available investment in these businesses, who we can tell could create jobs. Once we invest in you, we want to see how many jobs you're creating, how many sustained jobs you are creating, what levels of incomes you're paying to these people. It is time to pursue this agenda. It is time to look again at my proposed Ghana-Africa strategy. Mr. Chairman, I end by saying God bless our homeland Ghana and make her great and strong. Thank you for your attention.
I think I'm allowed to call him the Wonder Boy. Ladies and gentlemen, Nelson Madiba.
He went to the London School of Economics.
Mike, please.
Madiba. He is the Nelson Mandela of Ghana. Let's give him a round of applause again, please.
Women's Fellowship. Nyebaya nyehi hello. Wona yelo ke waya wo hie. Wokpa ngo she keje China. Sani e na wa. Ti ayile ten. Yefa nye ha wala la kome. much, our Women's Fellowship. We have a full house. We have close to 600 participants. It's about the biggest ever. Shall we clap for ourselves? And I believe it's so because we all need jobs. And interestingly, we have planned that as far as possible, this particular event will be replicated in the various presbyteries and, if you like, even in the districts. So please feel free to tap our experiences in that direction. We'll be too happy to come and join you organizing. We all need jobs. And Papa Moderator has said that by the end of this program, all of us here will have jobs. Amen. 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 Yes, very good. That's a prophetic one to all of us. Papa Moderator in Chair, may I, with your kind permission, recognize a few of the groups that are present. We have all the groups here, the generational groups and the service groups. I know that we have Women's Fellowship here. Women's Fellowship, can we see you? Yeah, thank you so much. And we have the Men's Fellowship, our fathers. Watchameo, can we see you? Yes. Men's Fellowship, yes. And we have YAF. YAF, is YAF here? Yeah, YAF. Oh, they are quite a lot, about 500. Yes, good. YPG, are you here? Yes, YPG is here. Noobs. Yeah, you are doubling as Noobs. That's good. Then we have the Presbyterian University Ghana choir. The choir is here. And we have the students also, students and faculty. Can we? Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming. Your president is here. So no wonder you are here. We have Presec. Where is Presec? Presec Legon. Let's see you. That's Presec Legon. Yes. And we have Presec Osu. Where is Presec Osu? They are there, up there. Thank you for coming. We have Presec La. Where is Presec La? Yeah, I'm Presec Teshin. Where is Presec Teshin? My holy city. Yes, you are welcome. Do we have Presec Tema? Presec Tema. They are on your way. Okay. Thank you very much. You never know. Maybe their vehicle broke down and they have gone to Aboso Kind to buy parts. You never know. Yes. Papa Moderator said, it's now time to hear from our guest of honor, the Honorable Alan John Kojo Chematen. Sir, we are ready to hear you.
Right Reverend Professor, the moderator of the General Assembly, the President of the Presbyterian University, the guest speaker, Reverend ministers, the students from various Presbyterian institutions, other invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start first by commending the leadership of the Presbyterian Church, particularly my brother, the Right Reverend Professor, for inviting me to participate in this very important national lecture, public lecture. And I would also like to acknowledge the fact that the church is participating in the national discourse on very critical issues that affect the socio-economic development of our country. And as the chair rightly pointed out, everybody needs a job, either for himself or herself, or for their children or for a relative. And so the theme for this public lecture is also very appropriate. I also like to acknowledge the presentation by the guest speaker. And I'm happy that I was not the guest speaker. I am only supposed to comment on the presentation by the guest speaker. Because I know myself that as politicians, sometimes because of the controversy surrounding what we do, you have lost faith in us. So if I come and tell you about how to create jobs, you will not even listen. But a young man, dynamic man, as a guest speaker, I'm sure he will have more credibility with what he says than what I will tell you. But somehow, either by chance or design, what he's talking about here represents almost the strategy that we've adopted in our ministry, as if he was remotely monitoring what we're doing. And maybe a few comments that I will make will speak to that. So, Mr. Guest Speaker, being a young man, I believe you are also an inspiration and a role model for particularly our students who are gathered here. And we're chit-chatting, myself and my brother, and we're asking, wondering what was going through the minds of our young people. You better try and reflect on what has been said, because very soon, particularly for those of you who are at the university, you'll be coming out and you'll be faced with the realities of becoming employed. Professor Chair, the choice of this National Public Lecture, the theme, could not have been more appropriate, because the number one development challenge that confronts us as a nation is unemployment. Every year, over 300,000 people graduate from our tertiary institutions seeking jobs. If you add the number of people who are unable to escalate their future into a tertiary institution, then the matter becomes even worse. And remember, this is a cumulative process. Every year you are adding. So as the chair said and was reinforced by the guest speaker, this is becoming a national security problem. So I'm very pleased that we've selected this subject for our discussion this year. But the fundamental question is what the chair posed to us. Who is supposed to create jobs in this country? And why is it that it has become such a complicated matter? And why are we not creating the number of jobs that will help reduce the level of unemployment? Obviously, I'm sure I was invited to answer that question. But I want to consider the role not just of government, but also of the private sector, and also the role of the church. And let me start with the role of the church in creating jobs. Reverend Professor, the church has a major role to play in dealing with this fundamental challenge that confronts us. Because as you rightly pointed out, one of the cardinal strategic objectives of any church is to win souls. And part of the strategies to win souls is to ensure that you take measures that will affect the lives of the people. And obviously, that includes opening up job opportunities. Even if it's only for your church members, it goes quite a distance. So I believe that there are two areas where the church can contribute to this exercise. First is what we are involved in now, which is through advocacy. If we have the church playing a lead role in focusing our attention as a country to not just the problem of unemployment, but finding solutions to the problem, I'm sure would go a very long way. So the advocacy role is extremely important, and that's why I'm pleased that this platform has been created, because the church obviously has different people with different political persuasions. So if the Presbyterian Church organizes a forum like this, people who belong to the NPP would come, those who belong to NDC, CPP, they would come. And I think that it provides a more transparent way of having a discussion on national issues. But it goes beyond your advocacy role. The role of the church also in getting involved in entrepreneurial initiatives. And I believe that with the experience that you have as a church in organization, in strategy, in mobilization, if you focus on advancing entrepreneurial initiatives as a church, you can make a great contribution to creating jobs in our country. I'm sure you are already involved in that. But now that you are fronting and front-loading this subject matter, I hope that the church will continue and actually scale up your efforts in this direction. Now let me talk about the role of government. Government has two contributions or two areas that we can focus on. One is jobs created by government, which is public sector jobs. Unfortunately, in this country, there's a limit to the number of public sector jobs that we can create. In the public service, we employ not more than 700,000 people. So you can imagine that the solution in dealing with unemployment does not lie in public sector jobs. It can limit the challenge that we have, but that is not the solution. The solution is, how does government create the policy environment for the private sector to create jobs? And I believe that this is where the government must focus its attention. And in doing so, all over the world, we know that if the government wants to use policies to create jobs, it will not happen by chance. It will only come through deliberate, strategic, and systematic planning, which is what the guest speaker was talking about. In that regard, it's unfortunate that maybe we have not been communicating our message very well as a government. In the area of policy, the government has done and is still doing a lot to be able to opening up the economy to the potential for creating jobs. And I just want to make a reference to a few of these. We all know about the One District, One Factory initiative. Now, it is one of the most comprehensive and ambitious programs for industrialization to have been promoted in this country since independence. And it seeks to decentralize the establishment of industries throughout the country. So currently, we have over 300 factories promoted by the private sector. This is government supporting the private sector to establish factories, spread out throughout the country. And this is designed to be a major opportunity for job creation throughout the country. Currently, there are about 106 factories that are operational, and the others are under construction. But it goes beyond the one district, one factory, even though that is what most people know about. The government has also identified what we call new strategic anchor industries that will diversify our economy beyond cocoa. As you are aware, Ghana has depended on cocoa and gold for over a century as the stimulus for earning foreign exchange and for job creation. But are we going to depend on one commodity for another century if we really want to respond to this challenge of job creation and also being able to earn foreign exchange, which stabilizes our economy? So government has decided that we need to identify new strategic sectors which can help reduce this challenge of unemployment and also for growing the economy. And number one is vehicle assembly and the manufacturing of components. Again, I know that the guest speaker was alluding to the fact that his son was wondering whether there's anything that is produced in Ghana. That is quite the case, and I can understand that. But there are things happening in this country which, unfortunately, as Ghanaians, we do not even acknowledge, because no prophet is acceptable in his own home. But currently, 5 out of the 6 leading automobile companies in the world have all established assembly plants in Ghana. This could not have happened by chance. And the cars that are being produced here by Volkswagen, by Toyota, by Nissan, by Peugeot, these are world-class manufactured vehicles, comparable to any car that you can drive anywhere in the world. So let us appreciate what we are beginning to do in our own country. And it's not just about assembling vehicles. We are now going beyond that to assemble and manufacture components for the vehicles. Every car has about 2,000 to 3,000 different parts. So can you imagine if we continue deepening our engagement in this sector? Those who will be manufacturing wipers, brake pedals, fuel tanks, oil filters. That's how you are able to move your industrial and manufacturing agenda forward. So that's one. We are also now focusing on garments and textiles. Yes, we have excellent tailors, seamstresses in Ghana, but we are not leveraging that skill to global levels. I mean, if you take Bangladesh, for example, Bangladesh earns over $30 billion from garments and textiles alone. $30 billion. What does it take to manufacture garments, particularly for exports? And so if we are making only $2 billion dollars from cocoa all these years, and we have the capacity to even make 10 billion from garments and textiles alone, you can imagine the impact on job creation. So, Reverend Professor, the answers are clear, except that in our country, we are so negative in our own mindset that somehow, if I come and tell you about these things, you have heard, but you are not interested. Let's bring up a social matter which does not create jobs, but is just food for gossip and social conversation, you see how many people will be excited about it. So we are also working on garments and textiles. I've just come back from the UK. We are now also deepening our engagement in manufacturing of medicines and pharmaceutical products. Ghana produces only 33% of our medical requirements. So you can imagine that if we support the pharmaceutical industry, which is a major area for job creation, we can reduce our import bill in the area of pharmaceutical products. I'm just touching on just a few of these things. We are also focusing now on vegetable oils and fats, particularly palm oil. Malaysia earns over 25 billion US dollars every year from palm oil. Ask yourself, what are we doing in Ghana with our palm oil? Only chop chop. But the point is that you cannot be complaining about job creation when other countries are using the same opportunities that they have to create jobs. So what will it take for us to be serious about developing our oil palm industry? So that's what we are doing now. The next one is petrochemicals. You know, Nigeria pumps over 2 million barrels of oil every day. But you know what is happening in Nigeria. We are not there yet. We are pumping about 200 barrels a day. And they are doing 2 million. But the reserves that we have for oil and gas, if we are able to develop the petrochemical industry that's add value to oil and gas resources, we will get plastics. You know, you get plastics from crude oil. You get bitumen, so many derivatives from oil, and I'm sure the president of the university can tell you more about this. So we are going to ensure that we use our oil and gas resources to create a petrochemical industry in this country. And that is going to fundamentally change the face of our industrial activities. The guest speaker was talking about salt. I'm sure you all remember I used to be Minister for Trade and Industry also in President Kufuor's government. And I promoted 4 sectors. One was industrial salt. So what the gentleman is talking about, in 2005, we're already focusing on industrial salt. Exactly what he's saying. We have the capacity to mine 3 million tons of salt, but we are only doing about 150,000 tons. But people were so negative about these presidential special initiatives, as if it was just a political gimmick. So why would we spend over 15, 20 years for a young man to be talking now about something that we had the opportunity of scaling up? And because we didn't have the privilege of staying in power, and you threw us away, you also threw the salt together with us. And now somebody is telling you about salt. So it's also about the choices you make as Ghanaians. The choices you make about Ghanaians. That is our problem. That is our problem. So we are not recreating all these things. During Kufuor's time, I selected 4 sectors, only 4 sectors for us to focus on. Oil palm, garments, salt, and then cassava. I think you all remember this. But you remember the negative commentary with cassava. the opposition were talking about, oh, Alan is bringing some poisonous cassava, is going to kill Ghanaians. Meanwhile, cassava produces starch, cassava starch, and is one of the most widely used industrial raw materials in the world. Right now, if you produce any quantity of cassava starch, there's a market waiting for you in China. And cassava is one of the most widely grown commodities in Ghana. Over 25% of our agricultural GDP is in cassava. So if you cannot transform such a basic product, how can you grow as a country? But look at the negativity around cassava, the way people were talking about it. So we've gone 360 degrees. The first industrial starch factory are established in Central Region, Bodjase, Ayensu. 10,000 farmers were engaged in supplying cassava to one factory. And actually, government provided the working capital for them to own the factory. So all these things, we are just going round and round in circles because we don't make the right choices. Beyond that, we are also now focusing on bauxite and aluminium. You know we have bauxite in this country, and we are exporting the bauxite in its raw form. When we know if we add value, we can get aluminium. So for how many years now? Over 60 years, we are still exporting bauxite in its raw form. The value that you can get from aluminium as against the export of bauxite, it's unimaginable. So the point is that this government is now focusing on an integrated bauxite and aluminium industry, because the aluminium that we produce and then the plastics that we produce from our petrochemical industry will provide some of the components for the cars that we are assembling in Ghana. So everything we are doing is reinforcing each other. It's integrated. But we are doing this in a very practical way. We are also promoting iron and steel. We have huge reserves of iron ore, which we have not exploited for all these years. And we have one of the few countries that have manganese, which is added to iron ore to give you steel. So, Reverend Professor, we have what it takes to deal substantially with this problem of unemployment. And it can only come from the things that I'm talking about. And so if you allow us to finish our work, I can tell you that if we don't do anything at all in this country, and we focus on these 10 strategic anchor industries, you get a job for your child, you get a job for yourself. And I could go on and on and on. So it is not just about one district, one factory, it's about all these strategic anchor industries. Let me close just by making specific reference to some of the areas that the guest speaker touched on. He talked about creating winners. So basically, this is what we are seeking to do. In each of these sectors, we are identifying local companies who can team up with foreign investors to be able to propel their efforts in this direction. He talked about the fourth industrial revolution. The kinds of things that we are doing today is what will help us to participate in the fourth industrial revolution. Because once you start assembling of cars, you move on to robots and then artificial intelligence, and then you scale up. Bpo Strategy. During President Kufuor's time, the effort to bring in companies that will do business process outsourcing was embarked on. Unfortunately, the cost of connectivity at that time was too high. But now that we have improved our internet connectivity, I think we have the right environment to get into the Bpo strategy. You talked about export of human capital, and you are preaching to the converted. I know sometimes people think it's a brain drain, but the point is that other countries that have succeeded have done the same thing. Yeah. India is a major exporter of IT talent. Ireland, United States, the UK. All these countries have a deliberate strategy to export their skills. And I think Ghana can do the same. Last but not least, he talked about a Ghana-Africa strategy. As I said, maybe he's part of us from a remote area. I can say, at the risk of sounding a bit boastful, that I was one of the main architects of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And that is how come we ensured that we campaign to have the headquarters for the African Continental Free Trade Area in Ghana. That was the first pillar of our Ghana-Africa strategy. And the other components of the strategy, we are going to develop Ghana as the logistics hub for the continent. We are developing Ghana as the manufacturing hub for the continent. All these industrial initiatives I'm talking about, they are geared towards making Ghana, if you like, the new China of Africa. Making Ghana the new manufacturing hub. So it takes time. And I think that we are at a point where the fruits of our labor will start showing. We are also building Ghana into a financial services center for the continent. So basically, these are the elements of our Ghana-Africa strategy. And I hope we can continue to work with the Presbyterian Church to advance some of these ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister Alan Kojo Chairman Singh. I'm reminded of a Nigerian proverb which goes like this. The lizard who fell from the high iroko tree said he will praise himself if nobody praises him. And that is for our minister to say that in Ghana, yewa adioye. Amen. Mr. Minister, if you allow me, may I suggest that you employ the young Mandela too, because he seemed to be in sync with all the things you're already doing. Well, Moderator in Chair, a quick introduction. I'd like to say that we have the Presbyterian Women's College of Education. Are you here? Yeah, in your fine attire. Thank you. I almost forgot to recognize you. You're most welcome. It's now time for you, the audience, to engage the topic for our discussion. As you get ready to come and speak, Papa Moderator in Chair, I'm not sure if there is a way by which the government and the church can enhance whatever cooperation already exists between us in the area of job creation. And also, if the minister is looking at the apparent lack of linkage between the kind of education we have vis-a-vis the requirements of the job market, something that I know Ishmael Adams and other people have been talking about. Yes, Papa. But you have to put on. Yes, Papa Moderator. So, audience, please let's see by hands so we can number.
By the microphone.
The moderator says you can line up by the microphone.
If you want to speak, ask a question, make a comment. You want a job for your nephew? Please line up. I want the woman too, please. Any woman? Hey.
We have the former MP for Kile with us, and we have Mr. Stephen Chermatin, also former board chair of Active Insurance, who is also a brother to our guest of honor. They are all with us. Shall we welcome them with a clap? Thank you so much.
Mr. I'm seeing only men. Okay, there is a pre-sec student. From which pre-sec? Come forward. You will be number 2. That's why these people, they all have jobs. They are about to retire. Okay. Any woman, please. Going 1. Any woman, please. Going 2. I see a woman coming up. Is that right? The lady, are you? Come forward. Be number 3. That's right. Now you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We will take all the 6 at once, and then we will direct them to who are speaking. So let's pause at the 6, and then if there is time, we will take another group. Our Reverend from Germany, you can keep standing, but you will not ask yours now. You will be the number 1 in the next group. So, now, number 1.
Thank you very much, Moderator, sir. My question goes to the Honorable Minister for Trade and Industry. And it has to do with, I wanted to find out if the government has a political will to, as it were, reduce importation, because it is something that is obvious for everybody to see, that if we will continue to import everything, almost everything, there's no way we can develop. So I just want to find out if there is a political will for the government to do so. Thank you very much.
Number 2. Please, when you come forward, mention your name and where you have come from.
Okay. Please, I am Roy, and I'm from Presec.
Kindly remove the mask, and your name again is?
I am Roy, from Presec, Legon. Please, my question goes this way. Why is there discontinuity in government policies after changing government?
Discontinuity in government policies?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And then I would like to know...
Did you hear about 1 district, 1 factory?
Yes, please.
1 man, 1 question.
Yes, please.
Well, because you are a student, I will take it to be 1B. So 1A, 1B. All right. Go ahead.
And I would like to know what measures has been put in place to increase export, while most students are aimed at doing jobs in offices. Since our main export, being cocoa, is not produced in the office, but rather in the farm.
See, why are we training them for jobs in the offices when cocoa is not grown in the office? So, yeah, as students, you're training them for jobs in the office. Meanwhile, a normal this cabaret Ghana, you're in the office. This is cocoa. All right.
Thank
you. You are okay.
Hello, my name is Salome, and
wait a minute. Number 3. Your name is
Hataka Salome
from
I'm from the Presby Church, Tema.
Okay.
And I'm a HR personnel.
All right.
Yeah, please, I would like to know, is it possible to create a platform that can help graduates get job apart from when you are in a training college, a teacher or a nurse, when you come out, there's a job opportunity, but from the university graduates, you have to apply, and they will keep telling you, there is no vacancy, and even when the advert is being advertised, you won't get, even if you have the qualification, if there is a way and opportunity can be created for these graduates. And also, I would like to know, if you want to set up something, what are the procedures? Because you start, I remember trying to set up a business, I was trying to seek for fund, but if you don't have, they want you to have something to start. But if you don't have an equipment to start, you have to start from somewhere, but they're expecting you to show something, even if you propose to them. So I would like to know how best we can do it.
We got your point. Number 4.
Akwesi, hallelujah, dankwa. Presby Church, Ashiye. Mine is, as we are talking about job prospects and opportunities, we also have to think of why the jobs comes and dies or wind up. And my first thing that I will talk about is...
One district, one factory.
No, I'm not asking 2 questions.
Okay, right.
I'm adding to this job creation.
You said the first thing, so there will be a second.
Okay. Yeah. So, as we are talking about job prospects and opportunities, we also have to think of what makes the jobs after they've been created dies.
Yeah.
And I look at this aspect that the government, the role the government should play, the role the church should play is to tackle bribery and corruption. Because these are the areas that kills the job, not we voting them out.
Oh,
because the
what role will we be into?
Excuse me.
You came to the meeting with bribery and corruption in your head.
Yeah, because
I hear you.
Because I'm retired but not tired.
No, I thought that you were asking a very, very important question.
Let's leave it to them. And I'm adding something to it.
Let's leave your question to them.
I'll leave the question.
We have a very important question. Yeah. Next.
I'm Honorable Kwabena Ohemi Tinyasi, former MP for Kadi, an apostle of the minister, right, Honorable Minister Alan Tremati. Mine is the human factor that destroys the job, and so we don't have the job creation. The attitude of workers towards the job is a factor we have to look at. You get a lot of people wanting to work, get employment, and they don't work. You go to offices, and pushing a letter from one table to another table takes 10 days. You get to an office, people are wanting to be paid higher, but their productivity is very negative. Besides that, on the ordinary job market, you get a lot of people who are misappropriating the entrepreneurs' money. They steal all the cash that is collected as susu, and the job never grows. They find all means of getting higher than what they have signed up to be paid for. And so, therefore, as a church, we need to look at the negativity of individuals towards entrepreneurship and towards the bringing down of the jobs that are created. Thank you.
Yes.
The name is Samuel Donko from Swedro District in the Central Presbytery.
Excuse me, among those who are in the line, are there any journalists? Let me see your hand, because I would like to create space for the journalists too. If you're a journalist and you want to ask a question, please do the journalist line for me. Thank you. Yes. Go ahead. Swedro man.
Listening to the Honorable Minister, I realized that he used certain words like government is trying to deepen relationship, government is trying to expand certain industries to accommodate some of the youths. So per my simple analogy, that tells me that for now, the opportunities are not yet there, and the capacity to employ some of the youth is not there yet. So I want to know, so when would that...
Ufri swear drone nearby. Because the old Krakosi and say, Minister and some of Canina, I had that chicabia. In print cabia no my. Yes, I know.
So when would that opportunity come for us, the youth?
Matthias, thank you very, very much.
My name is Reverend Eric Thompson. I am here in Osu, Ebenezer. Yeah. Sometimes when certain statements are made, it makes our minds agitated. The reason I'm saying this is that our Honorable Minister says that we have not been able to make right choices per the political parties that we elect to lead the country. But I think that these two governments have come and gone, and for what I see, they will still come and go. And the matter is that they take us for granted. They have seen that we look like Egyptian mummies. So they will come, they will talk, and we will vote for them. But when they get there, they forget about the promises that they make. I guess that it is too much for us as Ghanaians. It is about time we lifted up our promises and games. Let's remember, when you lead the country and you place the country into the hands of the Lord, it is established.
Oh, wow. Thank
Amen.
you very much. Thank you. I take that to be a good advice. Very, very good. Very good advice. Yes, the last person in the first batch. Yes.
I am Matilda Santi from Taifa District, belonging to the Women's Fellowship.
Taifa.
Our Honorable Minister concluded by saying that the identified problem we have is our mindset. And I'm asking the church, how are we making the transformation?
Okay. Correcting the negative mindset about our own selves. Now, Reverend, wait. Journalists, yes. Tell us your name and which media house you represent.
Okay. My name is Nimama. I work with Class FM.
Class FM?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I want to know from the
let me say, Piero, where are you? Oh, okay, go ahead.
I want to ask the minister if he can update us on where we are now with respect to the ban on importation of rice, as the president promised. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will leave it to the two of you. And please, can we get a microphone so the minister doesn't have to go up and down? Okay. The minister says he will rise. Okay.
Bring this one, Papa. Sorry, I'll bring this one to you. Because the media wants to capture it.
Hello. Professor Chair, let me thank those who have posed questions, and I would like to respond to them as they came. First is whether government has the political will to reduce importation. The fact of the matter is that in any country, you have to be able to balance your imports based on how much you are producing. So obviously, if you are able to produce to the level where the need to import becomes unnecessary, then at that point, you can proceed to limit and restrict importation. So you take, let's say, just for purposes of this discussion, somebody is talking about rice. The amount of rice that we import into this country is very significant. And ordinarily, if we are able to scale up the local cultivation of rice, then you can restrict the importation of rice. If you are unable to do so and you restrict the importation, you create shortages, which also present its own challenges. So our strategy is that we are supporting manufacturing for import substitution. And that is why I went through the trouble of giving you an indication of some of the initiatives that we are pursuing. In each of these areas, if we are able to scale up our production of certain imported items, then we are in a position to limit and restrict importation. So the political will is there, and that is what is reflecting in our policy. First, to expand production, and based on that, to reduce the importation of the things that we import. So that is what we are seeking to do. Discontinuity in government policies. I think the young man...
Honorable, I guess perhaps to that question, a simple one, if it is about rice, we can appreciate the point. But if it's toothpick, then what? Ray, I guess something like that. Something like toothpick. We have chewing stick and we are importing toothpick.
Yeah. So, Prof, you are right, but you remember I was talking about the role of government and the role of the private sector. We've gone through the experience of government becoming an entrepreneur, that's creating state enterprises during the first regime. So we are moving in another direction, supporting the private sector to produce the things that we are importing. Now, if we are importing toothpick, then it is obvious that that opportunity is there for local entrepreneurs to fill that gap. If we don't want government to go into the production of toothpick, why is it that we are posing this question? Why has it not been possible, in fact, for any of you to take the decision that I want to interrogate the possibility of manufacturing toothpick? Because we are agreeing that it is not a business of government to be manufacturing toothpick or any such product. So, Prof, the question comes back to that. And if we didn't get the time to get into what government is doing to support those of you who want to be in business, because that would have taken us a much longer time. And it comes back to what our sister and mother was referring to. What can the church do to contribute to this change in mindset? So that was why I was referring to the role of the church in addressing this problem of unemployment. So if everybody is sitting thinking that the government is the one that has to create the job, or is the one that, then basically it means that it will take us a very long time. But if the question is, so how can government support me to open up a small plant to manufacture toothpick, then we are talking. So I think that we are probably not understanding ourselves properly in this whole quest to create employment.
You don't have the floor.
Yes. So the next, the 1A, that was 1A, 1B.
Excuse me. What you did is not acceptable. Why did you even start it? You are fined.
One box of toothpick. So that question came from the student.
Yes.
Now, discontinuity in government policies. Frankly, it's difficult to respond to that because I was suggesting that if there is a government program that seems to have credibility, then it doesn't matter whether the government stays in power or not. At least successive governments should continue with the program. This was what I was suggesting. So you have two choices. Either you retain the government to continue doing what they are doing, or if you want to change the government, make sure that they continue with the good policies that have been generated by the previous government. Of course, the preference is for you to continue, we have continuity in government so that we can finish the implementation of things that we start. The 1B was training for the right job opportunities. And I think that the president of the Presbyterian University, who is an accomplished academician, can help us understand what will it take for us as a country, knowing the development challenges, the kind of jobs that we want to create for the new industries that we are developing. What will it take for us to reform our curriculum, particularly in our tertiary institutions, to respond to the needs of industry? Because like the young man was saying, you are training us to work in the office, whilst meanwhile the jobs are in the factories, not in the offices. But I guess you are speaking to the converted. But that's the responsibility of the educational institutions, both public and private. Then the third one was the platform for jobs, for job search. There are so many platforms that would help you identify job opportunities. And government has a platform that supports people in that direction. But there are many other private sector platforms that can help you identify a job. And I think the same person asked the question, so how do you start, how do you receive support if you want to start your own business? And I don't want us to get into detail, but the government has a network of what I call business resource centers. Business resource centers. There are 67 business resource centers and 200 business advisory centers spread throughout the country. And any person, any individual who has a project idea or who wants support to incubate an idea to start a business, these centers, business resource centers and advisory centers, are there to help you and actually hold your hand to be able to go through your starting your own business. The issue of why are jobs dying, and I think the questioner wanted to relate it to corruption. So I wasn't sure exactly what his point was. But the answer to his question lies in the belly of the contribution of the one who spoke after him, attitude of workers. So if you have a company and the people working there have the wrong attitude, obviously that can contribute to I would say, the dying of that particular job. And then also the issue of, I don't want to repeat that, but he was suggesting that in some cases, workers, don't let me broadcast this because then I can be charged for that. He was talking still about the attitude of workers and taking advantage of the resources of their company. Obviously, this is a negative attitude. So if you're working for a company, don't take away what belongs to the particular. That can also lead to the collapse of a company. Then jobs for the future. I think we've alluded to this. Yes.
Excuse me. Those of you up there, I have not asked anybody to share anything. Stop it. Hey, those sharing the food. Who told you we are hungry? Stop. One thing you must learn is that when the Minister of State is speaking, you don't start sharing food, except if you are dying. Learn that. Take why?
Thank you, Chair. One gentleman was making reference to the fact that the projects that I was speaking about all seem to be a pipeline of future jobs. But that's very unfortunate if that's your understanding. Because you have to start from somewhere. And currently, all the initiatives that we are embarking on, whether it's the One District, One Factory initiative or the new anchor industries, they are employing people as I speak. So it's unfortunate if you give the impression that we are talking about the future. It is happening now, and it's going to continue. Hello? Hello? Okay, it's better now. Yeah, so let us have a positive attitude to this. What the government is doing now is real. We are not talking just about thinking of doing it. It is happening now. And so that's the way I would look at it. And then I think continuity. The gentleman was asking or somehow referring to the fact that the political parties seem to be talking about the same thing. If I understood you well, and that whether it's Party A or Party B, is going to be the same thing. I'm not sure that I agree with you. But the point is that you need to recognize and appreciate that there's progress in this country. Ghana is now, in spite of all our challenges, considered as one of the best performing countries in Africa. So why is it that we are so negative about what we are doing to the extent that we are making reference to the fact that whether it's political, a party A or B is going to be the same thing? Then I understood him to say that well, so the church must now provide the answer. So, Prof, they are saying that the political parties cannot provide the answer, but the church should be the answer. But the church does not exist to glorify poverty. What the chairman and his leadership are doing is to make sure that they work hand in hand with government, regardless of whichever party is in power, to ensure that we expand job opportunities in the country. So I hope that we'll be a bit more optimistic about what is going on. And then the church creating the right mindset, I think that is. And then last but not the least, ban on importation of rice. Currently, we are scaling up our production of local rice. And once we get to a point where we are able to support the production of rice to the extent where we can limit the importation of rice, we are going to do so. We've already initiated a process towards that, restricting the importation of soya beans, of some particular commodities. And very soon, with improvement in the production of local rice, that restriction in the importation of rice is going to occur. Thank you.
Okay. We need to leave this room. We need to leave this room. Honorable, I know you just pretend. We need to leave this room by 1 o'clock. Is that okay? It's okay for you? Okay. And so when I look at the line, the queue, it's like a queue looking for rice. Now I'm just sitting here thinking how best to handle the matter. Okay, so do me a favor, do 3 lines, men, women, and students. And so 1 man, 1 woman, 1 student. 1 man, 1 woman, 1 student. I want to hear the voices that way. That's right. Okay, let's do the student line here. You are from which school? Presby University? No. You are a man? So stand behind the German man. Yes, that's right. All right, good. And so now what we're going to do is that our speakers, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1 district, 1 factory. 1 person, 1 question. And your question, if it goes beyond 60 seconds, will not be answered. So find, you did Presi in school. Those of you who went to Prempeh College, you did Presi. Okay. So make sure that you structure your question very well, not more than 60 seconds. Identify yourself and then your question, please. Number 1.
Yeah, Reverend Raphael Dreyer from the EMS, Ecumenical co-worker in the PCG, helping to manage the National Cleanliness Ecological Integrity campaign. In this sense, I wanted to point to the, emphasize the importance of the green economy for job creation. Yesterday I went to a plastic collection point, a new one in Nungwa, where the whole community is encouraged to collect plastic bottles and sachets, and they were pressed and then later to be recycled. And I think that is one area where the government should and could invest more to make pallets, to enter a circular economy, not just consume, produce, consume, and dispose of, but let me say, have plastic waste, clean the environment, and put that back into the circle.
Thank you. So
yes.
Jobs in the area of environmental cleanliness.
Yes.
Thank you. You've exhausted your 60 seconds.
Solar energy and crowdfunding was number 2 and number 3.
Now, then woman.
I'm Linda Peona Kokoe Aikwe from Fafraha District YPG. Papa, I think a couple of us have been exposed to the fact that all the way from school we knew we might not get opportunities to work. And so we have decided to then become entrepreneurs by trying to set up our own businesses or trying to continue some businesses. Some of us have got to the point where we probably can employ more than we are employing, probably can grow the businesses more than we can. And so I'd want Honorable to expose us to some of the opportunities we have to be able to do this and
to be able to employ more people. Good. Expand. Students.
Thank you very much. Please, my name is Obed.
Okay, she has a business. Yes, and she wants to find ways and avenues by which she can expand it so she can employ more people. Yeah, all right. Yes, which school?
Precisely gone.
Okay.
Please, I think we mentioned of the need for entrepreneurship being one of the ways where
I don't hear you. Are you going to be in the National Science and Maths quiz? Before you speak, let's clap for Presec Ligon for being the best school in National Science and Maths quiz. Your clapping shows how biased you are. You didn't clap properly for the Presec. Thank you. Now go ahead.
We talked about entrepreneurship being one of the ways to curb the issue of unemployment. So I want to ask whether or not there's a way where right from, say, the primary school level, the spirit of entrepreneurship can be inculcated into students and they're being trained as to how to go about it as and when they want to become entrepreneurs. And also,
I said 1 district, 1 factory. That's enough. The spirit of entrepreneurship from basic. Now, a man.
My name is Okatechi Donyina Diabo.
Okatechi?
Yes, please. Right. And I'm executive member of the board that sees the affairs of pro-Alan groups. But I'm not here for politics. This is national interest issue, so. Yes, okay. So, like the next president said, for any Hello, thank you. For any developing nation that seeks to develop should empower the private sector to create jobs and to establish more companies. And we all know that this in particular can only be achieved if the government should create a job creation enabling environment. Now, this is where the issue of the youth creating their own business and establishing their own companies come in. Now, you go out there, you try to seek investors, you meet top-notch investment companies and top-notch investors, and they ask for 20% CAPEX or 15% CAPEX. Now, taking into consideration a project like starch or high-quality cassava flour, with a minimum capacity that the machines now process is about 50 to 72 metric tons per day.
You could have summarized your question. What is the question?
Okay, so the question is that with a fresh graduate trying to establish a company that requires much capital.
The startup.
Yes, as a startup.
Yeah. All right.
Aside the initiatives of NEP and then one district, one factory, are there any economic policies that government is trying to do or government has a tendency of doing to cushion these youth so that they can get the investment and they are able to pay for the CAPEX or provide the CAPEX should the investment companies ask for? The
reason why your question is very long is because you are a politician more than an economist. You just want a startup. Thank you very much. Next woman.
Yeah, please, my name is Gloria Osaidi Eguo, ESR, coordinator for Tema 1 district. Papa, Mr. Amu just said, going on for holidays, sometimes you used to dash them chocolate. And this thing has happened to me because I have lived and worked in Germany and Holland. And that is what I've been doing. Sometimes I give it to them. But then I've realized there is no products of our the cocoa products, none of them is in the European market. I saw a Milo on the shelf of one of the supermarkets. I read what was written and I saw it was a product of Kenya. But then we paid a visit to the Nestle and I saw the same thing there. And I asked, why is it that this Milo is being made here in Ghana? But then it has a written of products of Kenya. And they said they are doing it for them. You do it for them, they send it to the European market. Meanwhile, it comes from Ghana. So please, I think we have to look at that one also, Mr.
So why don't you put in a form of a question? Why is it that in your mind, the Milo was made in Ghana, but it has made in Kenya on it? Is that what you are saying?
Yeah, Papa, because when I came on holidays,
we got your question. Thank you very much. Students.
Please, I'm Dr. Rosalinda from Petrochemicals. Please, my question is, the different lectures that we've had is like in different institutions, like working institutions, they have qualifications that they take. But there are some people, naturally, they are gifted for a particular job. But because they don't have those qualifications, they are not being employed. So I want to ask, what about those people? And my second question is please, it's simple.
Help me.
Okay.
Your first question, I need to understand it well. Help me to understand. You are from Presentation.
Yes.
So ask your question well for me.
Okay, so the first question was, in different working institutions, they have qualifications that they take. But I want to ask, there are some people, they don't have those qualifications. But naturally, they have gifted, they have an idea of that particular.
Thank you.
What about those people too?
Thank you. Now I understand. Thank you.
Please.
Now, man.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Wait. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Mine is not a question. I just want
your name and where you have come.
My name is Eric Ofreata. I'm the General Manager for one of the 67 business resource centers created by the Honorable Minister Trade. Basically, I'm the general manager for the Business Resource Center in Waja. It was created by the Ministry of Trade and Industry under PPP, and it was under the personal vision of the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, and in conformity with His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo's Ghana Beyond Aid. And basically, the Business Resource Center, it's a one-stop shop for providing business development services for SMEs. So our main mission is to assist micro, small, medium enterprises and entrepreneurs like you to successfully grow by utilizing modern technologies and also best business practices. And we do that by for instance, somebody was saying that they can't get credit. Because the reason why they can't get credit is that the financiers, banks, and they don't have any ways of ascertaining how they're going to pay for it. So the Business Resource Center is there to help you, prep you. So, for instance, if you need your books.
So you are answering the question for the Honorable.
Well, I'm just organized. And for the church, actually, for the church and students.
No, because your 60 seconds has last.
Okay, just for the church and students, yes. The BRC, we have a program for setting up clubs, entrepreneurship clubs for students and also for the church members.
Oh, okay, you are the CEO of BIC.
Sorry?
You are the CEO of BIC. Then wait a minute, please. I will let you speak because you are the one that they must be looking for.
Absolutely.
For the startups.
You started everything.
All those kinds of. Don't run away.
Absolutely.
I will call you up here.
Okay.
You will come and show us. Yes, that's right. Thank you very much. Students. Yes.
My name is Goswe Fiakuma. I'm from La Presbyterian Senior
Your name is what?
Goswe Fiakuma. Goswe.
God's way. Okay. God's way, you are a Presbyterian student?
Yes.
Okay.
Why
are your hands in your pocket like a non-Presbyterian student? Now speak.
My question is that several times government, when they want to come into power, they will set out a policy. But they will not be able to complete that policy before their term ends. But if other government come to power, they also will not complete that policy, they will leave it there. So the one this way, one factory that this government is saying that up to now they have not finished, even I think half of the policy.
They have not done what? They have done 106.
No, I'm saying that they have not finished half of the policy about the one district, one factory. They have not completed it yet. But it left with 2 years for them to complete their term.
Right.
What are they putting in place that if they complete their term, they
and are able to live a healthy and productive life. Now, under that, we have what we call the Entrepreneurship Committee. An Entrepreneurship Committee sits at the highest level of the church and reports to the General Assembly Council. Last year, one of the things that we did in the Entrepreneurship Committee is to do an Entrepreneurship Acumen survey. One of the things we realized was that the normal things that we do in the church in terms of training our youth has become
Please, take this micro. Okay, it's come back. Okay.
The normal things that we do in the church to train our youth have become obsolete. And so our young people are no longer interested in the traditional vocational skills that we used to have. So dressmaking, bead making, some of those things, we do not get enough traction around it. And in fact, most of our vocational schools were going down. And so we did an entrepreneurship acumen survey to let us know what are the new type of skills that the young people in our churches